All right. What does the ideal student for your institution look like? So when you think about who is out there and who you are trying to recruit, what does that ideal student look like? And we will start with the new person in the Zoom, and we'll go to Texas Tech and Veronica to start us off.
Sounds great. Thank you so much. So when I think of an ideal student for Texas Tech University, that I'm sure many of my colleagues would agree with, Texas Tech is looking for students who want to be a part of something bigger. More importantly, a program that they're interested in. I hope that with their wanting to attend Texas Tech University, that they're finding a program that they're interested in. We have over 150 undergraduate degree programs to choose from within 10 academic colleges. And so, first and foremost, we want to make sure we have the right program fit for you. We also want to make sure that students are longing to enhance their experience and wanting to participate in undergraduate research, maybe finding a challenge in our academic honors college, and then also opportunities for students to study abroad and engage in community service learning as well. We're going to look for students who desire personal growth and to be part of rich history and tradition. Texas Tech University has been around for 97 years. We're coming up on our centennial anniversary. And so we want students who want to be a part of something bigger, whether that be the university, a student organization, one of our 550 student organizations, and a really awesome Lubbock community as well, one of the greatest college towns in Texas and the United States.
Thank you. And I will say I am a little bit partial to Texas Tech. I love all of our colleges and universities and what they do for our students, but I do have a junior at Texas Tech, and I will have a freshman there next fall. So I didn't realize she was going to get to be there for the centennial celebration. So that's pretty exciting. Speaking of celebrations, I believe that our neighbors up in Waco have been doing a lot of celebrating lately. So Lily, tell us about what Baylor is looking for in their ideal student.
Yeah, well, definitely a lot of celebrating here in Waco. If you didn't know, we just won national championship in basketball. So a lot of fun. I've already bought 6 t-shirts. So I just need one more for every day of the week. But yeah, Baylor is a wonderful place to go to school. I was actually a Baylor student not too long ago. And so what we're looking for in a Baylor student is it is an academically rigorous school. So we're looking for students who are ready to accept that challenge, who have done really well in their coursework in high school, and who are excited to be a part of the classroom, get involved in research and all those amazing opportunities that Baylor has to offer. But we're also looking for students who want to get involved in the Baylor community and who are excited to go here, are excited to participate in the traditions of Baylor, and just be a part of that Baylor family. So definitely, if you're interested, reach out to, I'm an admissions counselor, so definitely feel free to reach out if you have any questions about anything like that. Yeah.
Okay, thank you. So we will, I guess, go the other direction. We went north, so we'll go south, and let's hear from Bree at Texas State.
Yeah, I would definitely echo a lot of the comments from my colleagues. But I think Texas State is looking for a student that is looking to not only embrace a challenge, but really embrace diversity. We're kind of smack dab in the middle of Texas, so there's a lot of places that are coming our way. It's very likely that you would be sitting next to somebody at Texas State that is from a place that you have never visited, or maybe even never heard of. So we're really looking for students that kind of want a broad experience that they're ready to kind of engage in a global perspective. So, yeah.
Awesome. So then let's go really far away, even though she's right here, and let's go with Rochester. Dana.
I'm looking for a student who's not afraid of white stuff that's going to fall from the sky. We got a little taste of that here a few months ago, I know. So no, at the University of Rochester, we are one of the 35 tier 1 Carnegie level research institutions around the country. And so we have access to a lot of funding to make research happen. So if you are a STEM nerd, if you are a psychology, brain and cognitive studies student, if you are a student that just wants to get into the knowledge and help develop new knowledge, those are the kind of students we're looking for. And if you like parkas, even better.
Well, and we needed some parkas here this year. We had some really, really cold weather, although I understand it's really cold up in Lubbock right now as well. Talked to my daughter earlier today, and she said something about 37 with a wind chill of 20 something, but we're not suffering from that right now here. So let's hear from Rebecca and see how things are going up in Georgetown.
Absolutely, yeah. So I would say at Southwestern, we are one of the smaller schools that is represented here. You saved small for last, which I appreciate. So I think we're really looking for a student who wants to engage in the liberal arts, meaning that they really want to look outside of their own discipline and find the connections across all of the disciplines that they'll be able to study in really intentional ways. And we're also looking for that student who is maybe not afraid to come to a school smaller than their high school, who is ready to really build those personal relationships and really wants to discuss in class, wants to be known. I always tell my students, if you want to sit in the back of a lecture hall, we are not the right school for you. We have one lecture hall and we don't use it for classes, except for this year for social distancing purposes. So that is who I think would thrive at Southwestern.
Awesome, thank you. And last but not least, we saved the gentleman for the last because we had the ladies go first. So David, tell us about what St. Ed's is looking for in their ideal student.
Sure. Yeah, I think students who are ideal for St. Edward's are students who are trying to follow their passion wherever that might lead them. So, it's very common for students not to know what they want to do right now, right? Especially at the beginning of their time at university. But we want students to dig in, similar to what Rebecca was saying. Students who are intellectually curious and engaged, who are not afraid to be generous with their own time and, also do things like community service. And then also students who are really creative. We have a lot of artists and musicians on our campus. So those are kind of some qualities that I think are really, really commonly found among St. Edward students.
All right, thank you all. So let's go to our second question. And we'll see if I can pull it up quickly. So we know there have been a lot of changes over the last year and a half. Class of 20 had some changes. Class of 21 has had a lot of changes. Class of 22 is expecting some changes. And there's also the whole test optional, the AP courses, the on-ramps courses, dual credit. So people are really unsure about the college landscape. The knowns are not quite as known anymore. So when you think about your admissions process, and I know that a lot of the schools represented tonight do have that holistic admissions process primarily, and don't necessarily have auto admissions. What does that look like at your university? And how does a student's academic coursework play a role? And so we're going to go backwards this time, and I'll just go ahead and let David start us off.
Sure. So, St. Edward's as a liberal arts university does do a holistic review of the application, right? So we're looking at everything that a student sends us, including the essay, including their activities, including the letter of recommendation. All of this comes together to allow us to understand you better as a student. But of course, at the end of the day, I always come back to grades. And grades are the best reflection of your academic promise at the university that we have, as opposed to tests, which are not a good indicator of your academic promise or future success, which is one of the reasons that we no longer quite require you to take the SAT or ACT. At least at St. Edward's, we're permanently test optional right now. So those other things are way more important to us, and they're going to be the indicators to us that you're going to be successful at our university, which is why we're going to admit you.
All right, thank you. So continuing the backwards pathway, Rebecca?
Absolutely. I think our review process is probably very similar to St. Edward's in many ways. We're similar schools, but also different. So I would encourage you to check us both out because we have different feels to our institutions, but we are definitely looking at each of our students very much in that holistic way, looking at every piece of your application, at your whole life story. We became test optional in 2019, so that was a permanent change well before the pandemic, and I don't see any reason why we would be going backwards on that. But we do have the caveat that if you do choose not to submit testing, we do ask for you to do an interview with a member of our admissions staff. And I think that really allows us to get to know you better. And we encourage interviews of students, especially those of you who maybe have that grade piece. I think I would agree with David that grades are really one of the big things we're looking at, but we realize that you're human. And especially with online learning and experiences of the last year and a half where you just did not know what was coming your way. We want to get to know your story. And so that's really where we would encourage the personalization of this application and the opportunity to not just use your essay, but to also meet with myself or one of my colleagues to really share what happened and where are you and what can we do to support you. And I think that's one of the really great things that we do at Southwestern is I tell my students all the time, I don't have a job if you don't use me. So I like having a job. So, we are here to be your support system in any way that we can be through this holistic process.
Fantastic, thank you. Okay, and Bree. Or wait, no, Dana was next. We'll go ahead and do Bree because Bree's already unmuted, and then we'll go to Dana.
Sounds good. So Texas State, and you may find some similarities between myself and Veronica coming from Texas Tech. But Texas State is kind of traditionally a school that would have an assured admissions process, as well as kind of holistic review process if a student does not meet an assured admissions standard with an ACT or SAT score. Now, this has all kind of changed this last year, as well as the upcoming admissions year. So for fall of 2022, we will be test optional again, just like we were for fall of 2021. So I guess what that holistic process looks like is that we are looking at grades, essays, we're looking at kind of everything else that you can submit to us that would help determine if you're a good fit for Texas State or not. As far as the role that coursework plays into that, kind of like just what David said, the grades are kind of the best indicator that we have that you would be successful on our campus. So that rigor is going to play a big part, whether that's AP or dual credit courses. This doesn't mean that I want you to take 16 AP classes your junior year, because I want you to be able to perform well in everything that you take. So I think that rigor is certainly important, but also performing well in those classes will be important too. So.
Okay, thank you. And Dana.
So I echo everything, very much in line with like David and Rebecca, kind of that holistic admissions process. Being out of state, we don't use the Texas applications. And so for us, you'd be filling out an application like the common application or the coalition application, which I know some of my other colleagues take as well. The two other things that I would say might be slightly a little bit different for a school like the University of Rochester is we do consider demonstrated interest as a piece of the puzzle. Now, what does demonstrated interest mean? It means that, are you engaging with us at Rochester? Are you, attending any of these virtual sessions that we are offering? Are you meeting us on the road? Are you signing up for an interview? Any of that, we actually are able to kind of, we want to make sure that we're a fit for you, you're a fit for us. And so it's nice to start that process all the way through your junior and senior year. So we do track that information as well. Going back to a point that Bree made of saying we love students that challenge themselves in high school by taking those honors AP Ivy level classes. I want you to stress yourself out, like she said as well, but also please know that we are only looking at your application in the context of what your school is offering you. Now, Round Rock, you got it going on. You have a lot of great offerings in a lot of your schools, so you don't have to stress about that. But for to kind of level the playing field for students all across the country, when we're looking at these applications, we're only looking at the students in the context of what their high school is offering them in context of AP IB honors level courses, just so you know.
Okay. Thank you. And Lily.
Yeah, I think what everyone has said so far is great, and definitely would echo a lot of that. And we want to see you challenge yourself in your coursework, but we also want to see you be successful in it. So if you're going to take 17 AP classes and get C's and D's in them, don't feel the need to do that. So we want to see you be successful, but also challenge yourself. So a good mix of that. But we do also have a holistic review process. We don't have any minimum scores. And just like a lot of people have said here, we are test optional as well. So if you submit, those scores are up to you. How we see that in holistic process play out here at Baylor is you are required to submit your transcript and an essay, but we also do have some optional items that you can submit that are a resume, some letters of recommendation, a short answer response. So I say optional, but you guys are here at ahead of the game, so I'm gonna tell you, do them, submit those optional items. That's a great thing to submit and show your interest. And one common question that I get about Baylor that I think is good to address in this section is, we are the largest Baptist university in the world. So that is a big part of our campus, but that does not mean that you have to be Christian or Baptist to attend here. So even if that's not you, still apply. Everyone is welcome to apply to Baylor. So just a little tidbit to add to that holistic review process as well.
Thank you. And Veronica.
Hopefully my internet connection is okay. I keep getting some notifications that it's not. So want to make sure I sound okay. Awesome. So I want to echo a lot of what my colleagues said here on this call as well. Texas Tech University has an assured admission policy that we will carry on forward through the upcoming years. It is based off of your class rank. And then your ACT and or SAT score, if you would like to provide an ACT and or SAT score. We also super score, so we'll take the highest score from each section if you take the test more than once. So that is one way to be admitted to Texas Tech University is through that assured admission process. But we also have the opportunity for students to let us know within their application, whether you apply via Coalition, via Common App, or via Apply Texas, whether or not that they would want to apply test optional for scholarships and or admission as well. So you would provide us with that notification on your application. And then in that case, the test score would not be a requirement for you to apply to Texas Tech University. A lot like Lily said with Baylor University, if you are to apply test optional and you are wanting to go through the holistic application review process, we highly recommend items such as essays, letters of recommendation, dual credit college transcripts if you have taken college level coursework, and resumes, additional information, and a very strong application so that we can have a better understanding of who you are as an applicant. I also want to echo what all of my colleagues said with AP, dual credit, rigorous and honor courses. It's so important that you are to challenge yourself in those courses that you take, but it is also very important that you are successful in those courses that you take. So when it comes to your transcript, if you are going the assured admission route, we're looking at class rank, strictly class rank. But if you're going through the holistic approach, we will see your full transcript and all of the courses that you took, the rigor that you took, and the grades and how you performed.
Okay, so kids right now have a lot to think about when they're deciding if they're going to go test optional or not test optional, but it sounds like everybody definitely needs to be thinking carefully about the course taking patterns that they engage in, and a little rigor is good and too much rigor might be ill-advised. So but we know that all work and no play creates some issues. So let's look at our next question, which is going to be about balance. So what is your advice for finding the balance between a rigorous academic schedule where students are challenging themselves appropriately, but also their extracurricular activities and their social emotional wellness? So when you think about that kind of that trifecta there, those three aspects, what would your advice be? And I think this time I'm just going to open it up to whoever would like to start us off on that one.
I'll start us. My colleagues will not be surprised by that. So I really, I think to what some of our suggestions have been from our athletic department at Southwestern, they have a really interesting model where they call it the 8-8-8 model. So they say 8 hours of sleep, 8 hours of everything that's not school, and 8 hours of school. To make up your 24 hours for the day. And I know that y'all are in a little bit of a different position than our college students in that you have an 8-hour school day and then you have homework. So maybe we need to adjust a little bit on some of those numbers. But I think it's really important to remember that you are still a teenager, that you're still a person, and that the college that you are going to will be amazing wherever it is. And that we would much, much rather you take one less AP and join a club that you enjoy or have friends that you can hang out with. Your emotional well-being will be much more balanced if you can try to get some sleep. I know 8 hours every night is probably not achievable for you in high school, but if you can do it, awesome, good for you. But also just sort of taking care of yourself. I think that's the most important thing, is that you can't go to college if you're not able to do so because you're not healthy emotionally or physically. So definitely prioritize that and make that something that's important to you.
Okay, who'd like to address that next?
I can go next. That's a tough one to follow. Rebecca had a great answer to that response. I absolutely love that answer. I think that something that I want to point out as far as looking at the balance, when you're applying to colleges and universities, you have the opportunity to tell us about yourself. And so my personal reference point is that Texas Tech University doesn't necessarily offer interview opportunities for those that are applying to the university. And through balance, you can show all of the things that you're passionate about, that you're involved in, and you should do so through the application. So when you're looking at extracurricular activities, how can you express to us what you've been involved in? When you're showing us what rigorous coursework that you have taken, we'll see that in the transcript. But we want to know more about you, and your letters of recommendation are going to show your personal relationships and your leadership skills and things that you've been a part of. And then most importantly, your essay can really speak on your emotional well-being and all the different activities that you're involved in. So I think that one thing to point out is that your application and all of those different optional items or supplemental items are a great way for you to express what you've been involved in, so we can get to know you as an applicant and as a person.
Thank you.
I will jump in. I would say with this, students, you need to take care of yourselves. Parents, you need to take care of your students. We all need to be watching out for each other. Don't buy into what you're hearing in the media either. Last week? The big Ivy Leagues released all their statistics, and it was downright scary, their acceptance rates this last year. Please don't buy into, I'm not going to get into college. I'm not going to make it. I'm not good enough, because you are going to find the right fit. Do you know that it's 60% of the colleges in this country have an acceptance rate way higher than 50%? So just because you hear about the 8 schools that have an acceptance rate that's much lower than that, please know that you are going to find the home for you if you're doing the right type of college search. And you being a healthy, well-rounded individual is way more important than being scared of a stat.
Well, and there is a college for everyone. Not everyone has to go to choose from just one or two. That's one of the things I love about the array of institutions that are represented here, is that we've got public and private, we've got large and small, we've got near and far, we've got big town and not so big town. So that's a really good point. All right, who wants to go next?
I'll go really quickly. I don't have too much to add because everyone's been amazing so far. But I would say, to the extent that you're trying to kind of curate a portfolio of activities for the admission process, that's not something that we really encourage you to do. So we encourage you to follow your own passions, your own interests, rather than trying to impress colleges and universities with a list and array of, maybe service work or other activities that are outside of your normal activities. So be true to yourself, do what you want to do, and be authentic, and that will come across in your application.
And I don't remember which one of you has said it in the past, but don't load a whole bunch of activities into your spring semester of your junior year and your fall semester of your senior year, because that's going to be kind of telling. You want to see what have you been involved in over multiple years? What are you truly passionate about or interested in? All right, Lily or Bree, do you have anything to add?
Yeah, I can definitely go. I think everyone has said amazing things, and I think I would second everything everyone said and just again encourage you. If you don't join 17 clubs that you're not interested in and take 17 AP classes in that you have no interest in, join what you're passionate about, join what you're interested in so that you'll be successful and you'll be enjoying the things that you're doing. And that definitely helps with that balance. If you're in 15 clubs that you absolutely hate, it's going to be so much harder to feel successful in those things. And then speaking to what Veronica was saying on the application process, if you're in clubs and classes that you're interested in, on those essays or those different parts of the application, you're going to be able to really show yourself through the application and make that application shine, because we'll be able to see, hey, this is something that you're passionate about and that you're really involved in. And so that balance of being in things that you're going to be successful in and that you're passionate about will definitely help there as well.
Awesome. And Bree?
I don't know that I have much else, but I guess I'll just say anecdotally, I spoke to a student earlier today that's an incoming freshman who asked if they should take 12 or 15 hours or 18 hours. Don't ever take 18 hours unless you absolutely have to. But I had a student asking me this, and I said, hey, why don't you start with 12 and then find your balance from there? And I guess that's what I would tell you. You've been in high school now for a few years. You know what your balance is. You know where kind of your happy fit is. We can tell you, hey, take 3 AP classes, do 2.5 clubs, but none of that really matters if that's not the balance for you. So find your best balance, and the college fit will find you. So I guess that's my best advice on that.
I like that. I do. Just a reminder to our participants, if you do have any questions, please use the Q&A feature to post your questions, and we're going to answer questions from participants at the end after we've engaged in all of the pre-submitted questions. So our next question number 4, and I think you guys have certainly had this one before. When we're looking at the different types of college credit opportunities that are offered in high school, we've got IB and AP and traditional dual credit, and now we've got the University of Texas and Texas Tech on-ramps programming. Is one form of college credit more preferred over another? Like, would you rather have AP? Would you rather have dual credit? What are your thoughts on the types of college credit that they can come to you with?
I see a lot of us kind of shaking heads because I know at least Texas State certainly really doesn't matter. This is going to be another one of those things that's like, hey, what's the best fit for you? What kind of college credit is aligning with what you want to earn that you maybe don't want to take your freshman year? Are you confident that you can get a 3 or higher on that AP exam? So I think maybe finding the credit that is the best fit for you doesn't really matter for me.
I'll definitely echo what Bree said. Oh, I'm sorry, David. I'll definitely echo what Bree said about AP, IB, and dual credit, and so on and so forth. I think most importantly, I'm really encouraged to connect with the institutions in which you're applying or looking at to see how those courses transfer, apply to the degree plan, as Bree mentioned, what score you need on the AP test, if the math that you're taking at the dual credit level through Austin Community College transfers and applies to your degree plan that you're pursuing at the university. There's definitely there's different choice. There's so many choices for you, but if you can connect with the university or institution in which you're applying to make sure that it's a good fit, and obviously you'll want to succeed in the course as well. So what best fits your schedule and what you believe you will excel in.
I would add, sorry, dinner's just been delivered. So David, you go ahead.
Happens to me all the time. Yeah, no, I would echo. I mean, Veronica, I think you nailed it right there. So I think that was really good. it's true that, these tests or these curricula won't necessarily be counted the same way at every university. So it's so important for you to check with the university where you're applying to understand. A great example is the IB. So some universities will take the final diploma score that a student earns on the IB as a total score and then award, like, for example, a year's worth of credit, right? Some universities will do that. And then some universities will do it based on your final exam for each subject in the IB. And so that's really a big difference right there. So you'll want to really check with the university if you're an IB student and see how they're going to be accepting those IB credits, because that's a very different policy. And so same thing goes for AP.
And I can kind of follow up with David. I will tell you, at the University of Rochester, we're a little bit further away. If you're looking for some out-of-state schools, I hate to be the bearer of bad news, but we're looking for those AP or IB scores. These classes that you're taking through ACC or even the on-ramps program, we are going to see that you challenged yourself, and we appreciate that, but we will not be able to award credit for that per se. So just kind of a different perspective to kind of think along the ways. Now, that doesn't mean that I want you to not take those classes to challenge yourself, because I think it does show that you are capable of that level of work, and that you're going to just sail right through maybe some of the starting classes at the university that you land at along the way.
And I was going to add, apologize again, that there's also a really great system out there if you are planning on staying in the state of Texas, called the Texas Common Course Numbering System. And you can actually put in this, the institution that's granting the credit and the institution that you're hoping to take the credit to. So that would work for your on-ramps, that would work for your ACC classes. It would not work for IB and an AP, but if you are considering, so for example, you could look up Southwestern, oh, they're not going to take my ACC class in X, let me take the AP version of that instead. So sorry, Dana, but for the rest of us, if you're planning on staying in the state, that's a really useful tool.
Yeah, and then for us, we don't have a preference of which classes you take. Again, I think it is great to see that you're challenging yourself. And I also know that some schools might have AP options, some schools might have more dual credit options. So it really is up to where you are. So if you're at a school that you have lots of dual credit and AP, you don't need to stress out about it. Do what you can, challenge yourself how you can. So yeah, we really don't have a preference either way. And then just like everyone's been saying, feel free, look online, see how your credits transfer and how those test scores are going to transfer, especially with AP classes. Some might require 3, some might require 5. So look into that as well. Because if you're really set on getting a psychology credit, but you have to have a 5 and that might be not attainable for you, there might be some options there. So that would be another tip as well.
Thank you. And I'm going to take a moment to do some commercial breaks and share some information about these kinds of things from the district side of or point of view or side of things. We always tell students to begin with the end in mind. So I love that that's what you all emphasized in your answer is, kind of know before you go and be thinking about, if I go to this institution, what are my options? If I go to this institution, what are my options? And there's several tools that either exist in other areas or that we have curated or created for our students and our families. One of the ones that already exists out there that was already mentioned is that common credit numbering system, and being able to look at if it's this here, what is it here? And is that on my degree plan that I'm wanting to go and take? And that's one of the things that we did with my daughter, who is going to Texas Tech. She's going to be a business major, and she was trying to decide which econ class to take. Should she take AP? Should she take dual credit? Well, she looked on the degree plan, and there's one business econ class, and it's a combo macro micro. So no matter what she took, she would still have to take that class. So she opted to take an on-level econ class instead, which is one of 2 on-level classes she ended up taking her entire time in high school. But it's this semester, so she's really happy about it. And so understanding those kinds of nuances. Another thing to be very aware of is that College Board has a tool called the AP Credit Policy Search. And so you can put either the course or you can put the institution into this AP credit policy search, and they will tell you what that will get you at an institution. So for example, if I put in Baylor University and I put in AP English language, it will tell me if you got a 3, we're going to give you this credit. If you get a 4, we're going to give you this credit. If you get a 5, we're going to give you this credit. And so that's a really nice piece for students who are trying to decide, do I take the class and not the exam? Do I take the exam? You know, what are my chances? Where is it going to transfer? That kind of thing. In order to help kids think through the information about those different college credit options in high school, we've actually created a couple of additional tools. One is a college credit in high school side by side, where we take some of the most frequently asked questions: who teaches the class, how is credit awarded, how is it transcripted, you know, what makes up the credit? Is it, you know, credit as a grade, or is it credit on a test? And we've created answers for each of those all the way through for IB and AP and on-ramps and dual credit. And that, along with another document, which is a high school to college crosswalk, where we have the high school course and then the equivalent AP or dual credit or on-ramps course. Those are available on our district website for our families to access. The last thing I want to say in my little infomercial is that if you are looking at a public college or university in the state of Texas, it is legislated that a student earning a 3 or higher on an AP exam will get some kind of credit at that public college or university. It may end up being elective credit, but it will be some kind of credit. So if you take the AP psychology exam and you get a 3, you're going to get some kind of college credit for that at the public institutions in the state of Texas. Private schools get to do whatever they want. So again, you have to check with them. Similarly, the IB diploma will earn you, I believe it's 24 hours of college credit at public colleges and universities in the state. And unless it's changed, I believe it also gets you automatic admission into the Texas Tech Honors College if you graduate with the IB diploma. You might want to check that out. I don't know if that's changed in recent years, but I believe that was the case last I heard. So infomercial over. I just wanted to make sure that I highlighted some of those resources that are out there for our families to avail themselves of as they're making some of these decisions. And now we'll go on to question number 5. And I think when you all answered the holistic process question, you mentioned the recommendation letters in several of your responses. And I would assume that that role has changed a little bit over the last year or two. So at this point in time in the process, what is the role of the recommendation letter in admissions and in scholarships? We haven't really talked about scholarships yet, but thinking about when students are seeking someone to fill out the recommendation letter for them, you know, what do they need to consider? What kind of person do they need to reach out to? When? How? Those kinds of things. So we will open it up to whoever would like to answer that one.
I can go. So the letter of recommendation, I'd say, is definitely really important, especially for our admissions process. So we do have that holistic review, and we want to see that you're filling out those additional items. So I would highly encourage you to submit letters of recommendation. There's an opportunity to submit 2. Going off of when and how you should get those letters of recommendation, don't wait till the last second to submit those. Ask in advance. Ask people who can speak on your behalf and who know you really well. If you have a school official, like a teacher, who can speak on your behalf as well, or your high school counselor, something like that, we love to see that as well. Regarding our academic scholarships, for those, we're going to be looking solely at your academic information that you provide, such as your transcript and your GPA. So those letters of recommendation will play a bigger role in your actual admissions decision.
Okay, thank you. Who wants to go next?
I'll go. So at Southwestern, we are a little bit unique in that we actually require a letter of recommendation from your school counselor. And so I know that y'all have amazing school counselors. However, I also know that some of your school counselors have a lot more students on their caseload than they probably ever thought they would have, and may not know you quite as well as you had hoped they would. I know that's not their intention, but we are living in realistic times. And especially with virtual times, it's not always easy to get to know your counselor. And so what I will say for us is that while we do require that, if you happen to be close with your school counselor, that's amazing. And we will look very closely at what they have to say about you on a personal level. However, if you are not as close, we still will ask for that, especially this year and the next several years, because it is a reminder for us of what happened in terms of grading scale during the pandemic. So I know a lot of schools have changed to passing for last semester, or excuse me, spring semester of last year, especially pass fail, different experiences there. And I'm assuming that most of you are in high school now. And so you probably, even if it was your first year of high school, had some of that on your transcript. And so for the next several years, we will be looking at the counselor recommendation for a really strong reminder, especially as it leaves our brains as we kind of move forward and are like, oh, right, most of their transcript is normal. Why is freshman year got all these passes on it? What happened? That is not often the case for our traditional transcript review. So that will be really helpful for us. And we certainly do accept letters of recommendation from other folks in your life. I would say the best thing to do is think about who can really speak on your behalf and your experience, not just who got an A with, because we can see that on your transcript. So I always encourage, if there's a math, pre-calc is always the class that people tell me they struggled the most in. If you were starting the year with a D and you brought it to a B and that teacher knows you, what did you do? How did you work hard? Right? And so find that teacher who can really say, they were here every day and here's the proof of what they did. I think that will be much more imperative than the teacher who you breezed through their class and just said, this was the class I'm good at. And so that's what I'm going to submit.
I want to quickly follow up on that, Rebecca, because I think it's actually happened in the Common App this year that they created a space for the recommender to enter information about COVID, right? That's like the first thing that you see, I think, in the Common App recommendation letter these days. So that's an integral part of that letter for us. We want to understand, of course, what's been happening at your school to put into context your academic performance. And so St. Edward's does require a letter of recommendation, either from a teacher or a counselor.
Okay, great advice from both of you. Who else wants to speak?
I will echo what all of my colleagues said here on the call in regards to who should write the letters of recommendation and what they should include in those letters of recommendation. Two things that I think I just want to point out here about letters of recommendation specifically is finding out how your institutions in which you're applying are accepting those letters of recommendation. Some schools are going to have online portals where you can upload the letter of recommendation yourself. Some are going to require that those be sealed and sent via snail mail. Some are going to require them to be sent through Common App or through the application, like David said, as a recommender form. Some have their very own recommendation form through their website if it's a requirement. So I think that's very, very important thing to note is knowing what schools require letters of recommendation, which ones are highly encouraged. And if you're applying to many universities and or colleges across the state and or nation, make sure too that your letters of recommendation and the individual writing your letters of recommendation are aware of the schools you're writing to, so that those can be tailored to that institution.
Veronica started talking.
Go
Sorry.
ahead. No, go ahead.
Veronica started talking about something that I like to mention to students. Start a list of schools that you're interested in and find out what each of them require. I'm kind of the oddball, I guess, in the group that Texas State doesn't necessarily want your letters of recommendation. So Veronica brought up a good point by saying which schools highly encourage them. and which ones maybe value something else a little bit more in the application process. At Texas State, I would much rather read your essay than read a recommendation letter. That's not to say that you shouldn't submit them, especially if you have some really stellar ones. But at Texas State, they're not required. And that goes for scholarships as well. So this is going to be something that does kind of vary depending on institution, but at least for us, it's not highly encouraged.
Kind of following along with that, we do look at letters of recommendation at the University of Rochester. Love you. We only ask for 2. I don't want 17. I'm probably not going to read the last 3 or 4. So just, you are always welcome to submit maybe 1 or 2 more than what is required. But I wouldn't say that you need to feel like you need to get everybody who knows you in your life, all your Facebook friends, to write you a letter. But I will say at the same time, I've had some very moving letters from pastors. I've had moving letters from siblings. I've had moving letters from other people in your life outside of your teachers that also are very telling about who you are. So don't be afraid to include some of those too if you feel like they reflect well on you.
That's really great advice. I know my daughter has had her youth pastor write some of her letters just because he knows her well. So it's good to know that we did an okay thing there. All right, well, we are to our last pre-submitted question, and you kind of have already all addressed this throughout the other questions that you've spoken to, but is there anything else that you want our participants to know about how your admission process has changed or is maybe going to change again as a result of the pandemic that we've all experienced over the last year? Are there any other nuggets of advice or thoughts that you have to share?
I can start on this one. I don't think our admission process is going to change too much, but know that, we are incredibly empathetic about the experience that all of you have had over the past year. You've missed out on opportunities, you've missed out on annual rites of passage, right? Just things that come up in the calendar that you're like, oh, I really want to be a part of. And know that we're thinking about that in terms of flexibility for the admission process, and that we want this process to be as easy as possible for you. And so I think that's really helpful. A lot of universities are looking at it through this lens of how can we help students right now. And so that's really my parting thought about this, and this understanding that obviously this is really an unprecedented time, and that we're going to treat the application process as such.
Thank you for that. Anybody else?
No, I would just say that like our admissions process changed as a result of students really not being able to test. I'm hopeful that maybe the university higher ups, the powers that be, see that maybe testing is something we shouldn't always require. But I am not paid enough, nor am I high enough in the university to make decisions like that. So I'm hopeful that maybe that is something that kind of becomes a standard, but I really can't say. So yeah, I don't anticipate really anything changing too much more though.
Okay.
I think one thing that I'll add, and I'm not 100% sure about all universities and our college, but I think colleges, but I think that COVID-19 and our inability to see each other, which has been so unfortunate, has really boosted our ability to use electronic features to share things with each other, whether that be documents or items that you would typically provide to us in person and whatnot. And by all means, our offices are open, following CDC guidelines and things like that. But I also want you to be aware that if you are wanting to turn in something electronically, a lot of institutions have implemented ways for you to do that. And so whether that be an online portal or uploading your transcript versus turning it in person, and those things like that is an option for you.
So saving
One
on the
thing-
hiccups.
Sorry.
No, go ahead, Lily.
One thing I would add to about test optional, which is a question that I get a lot, is will I be penalized if I don't submit test scores? So I think one thing that's so different this year, and I know some of my colleagues probably experiences taking tests, but when I took the ACT, I think I took it 4 times. to get a super score. And that option, even if you're able to take a test one time, might not be possible for you. And that is okay. So you will not be penalized by any means if you're not able to submit a test score. So if you are really confident in your test score and you love it and you want to show it off, send it. We love to see it. But even if you took a test and you really don't love that score, it's okay to apply test optional. What I always tell students is ultimately I want you to feel most confident in your application and for you to be proud of what you're submitting. So if that means not including a test score, you will not be penalized for that in any way.
I would say just the admissions process, it's been a bummer that we haven't been able to engage with you in person. We can, some of us, our campuses were not open to welcome you to our welcome centers to go on a student-led campus tour. We couldn't host you overnight. There were so many things that we had restrictions on, and we missed you. And we're looking forward to the world kind of opening back up and being able to do that again. Now, I would say, we've all had a very robust offering of virtual options like student panels and even tours, like live tours online, and academic sessions from professors doing experiments live in person. We've had all of those things, and that's a great start. But I would say also, you're also welcome to kind of go off of things that you're seeing. We have a lot of students that attend our schools that are very savvy on YouTube, and they're posting some amazing YouTube content that's not university, like that's not through the university, but it's giving you that real life view of what, that campus life might look like as well. And I would say, as things start to open up, our families who are sophomores and juniors, like get out and get on these campuses around our state and around our country. And you're going to start identifying these characteristics of these schools that you're going to be looking for, and it's going to work. We're doing the best we can right now, and we miss you, and we're looking forward to being back in person.
And I think I would just also add, I think we've heard a lot of stress from our students about sort of what David was commenting on about missing things. I couldn't do the internship, or my club got canceled, or things of that nature. And so I think to really add to the empathy, we understand that, and your resume may look different. And so I would encourage you to think creatively about your resume especially if you're a junior or sophomore. Talk about grocery shopping for your elderly neighbor. Maybe you planted a garden. Maybe you got a chance to read extra books that you would not have gotten to do. So be comfortable thinking outside the box in this. It kind of goes back to our earlier question about balance, right? This year, you probably learned a very different balance than you've ever had before, because you couldn't leave your house. So it made it a lot less busy for a lot of us. And so I think I would also encourage you to think about, what are the values that you learned over the last year? I had a friend tell me that this weekend, she said, I don't think a single one of us is coming out of this year the same person we were a year ago, no matter what your experience was, because we all have grown and changed with what we've had to deal with as a society. And so I would encourage you to be really reflective of that in your college search process, and to feel comfortable including that reflection in your conversations with us, and to ask the questions that really push us as well. And we are all humans, right? And so we also all went through this. I think sometimes it's really easy when you're in high school to be like, oh, it was only the high school students that this happened to. But we all did too, right? We're all sitting in our living rooms right now, hoping that my dog doesn't continue barking, right? And so I think that's something else that I think will have really changed even more. I think a lot of us have been very empathetic in this process, our whole experiences. And so echoing what David said, but I think it has really brought even more empathy into this experience, and understanding that each of you has been changed over the last year, whatever it looked like.
All right. Well, thank you guys so much for that wealth of information. And I think we may have had a couple of questions submitted through the Q&A. So I'm going to ask Catherine to come on and to ask those questions of you that have been posted.
So really, one of the questions was just requests for the links to that chart. So I just dropped those in there, Michelle. And really, for anybody watching, if you're curious about a lot of these things, the advanced academics page does have those links. And then there's more information about the different programming offerings if you're curious about that. And then the other question was about AP versus IB. And you guys kind of spoke to that. If anybody wants to add to that, I think that would be welcome, but I think that was really it. You guys talk so well about all the different programs. Like, I enjoy this. I learned so much both times I've done this.
I would say don't change schools just for the curriculum. That's my advice.
Okay. Okay.
That is good advice.
Okay.
All right. Well, if there are no other questions, all of the participants, thank you so much for being here. Panelists, thank you so much for being here. Again, it's just so good to see you. And I look forward to the possibility of us being in the same physical space for this next fall. That would be really, really awesome. But I appreciate the job that you're doing, the empathy that you have for the students and the situations that they have been in, both the graduating seniors this year, as well as those kiddos who are still engaging in a year or more left in high school and what that's going to look like. Thank you for your advice. Thank you for your warmth. And if there are no other questions, I'm going to go ahead and stop the recording.